Now we will factor trinomials where the signs separating the terms are not all positive. We could have some negatives and we can have a negative mixed in with a positive. We're still going to be looking at the product of the coefficient of the first term times the constant. So 1 times negative 21, which would give you a product of negative 21. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 21, and the sum needs to be negative 4, the coefficient of your middle term. So to find two numbers that multiply to negative 21, we could take 21 times negative 1. If we were to add them, 21 minus 1, that would be 20, which is not equal to 4, or negative 4. We could also reverse the sign here. We could have negative 21 times 1, which also equals negative 21. But when I add those together, I get negative 20, which is also not equal to negative 4. I could have 7 times negative 3, which adds up to negative 21, or which multiplies to negative 21, but adds up to positive 4, which is not the same as negative 4. So these aren't the two factors either. When I reverse the signs here, and I take negative 7 times positive 3, which multiply to negative 21, these do add to negative 4, so I know I have the right combination. So what I'm going to do, because of the structure here, I'm going to open up some parentheses. Since my first term is x squared, I know that each of them will start with an x. Now, I will replace these two numbers in here. So negative 7 and positive 3. To check that this polynomial factors or divides into these two factors multiplied together, we will check using FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times positive 3 is positive 3x. Negative 7 times x is minus 7x. Negative 7 times positive 3 is negative 21. Keeping in mind that these middle terms will combine, I can re-express this polynomial as x squared minus 4x minus 21, which is the same polynomial I started with, so I know I have factored it correctly. We're going to follow the same structure and logic with this polynomial that has a negative sign before the second term and a positive sign before the third term. So I'm going to start with a product sum table. My product is always going to be my leading coefficient, in this case 1, times my constant of positive 30, so 1 times 30 equals 30. The sum will always be the coefficient, including its sign, of the middle term, so my sum will be negative 13. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 30 and add to negative 13. When I think of 30, the first thing I think of is 10 times 3, but when I add those two together, I get positive 13, so that's not going to work. Sometimes you might think of 6 times 5, so you can take 6 times 5, but when I add those, I get 11. That's not going to work either, because that doesn't equal negative 13. Now I would take negative 10 times negative 3. Well, negative times negative is positive, and negative 10 plus negative 3 is in fact negative 13, so I know I'm right. It may take more or less attempts from you to find the right factor pair, but I'm encouraging you to keep trying and write out them as you go. Don't just do these in your head and try to guess. Make the table and make a list, cross out the ones that aren't good, and put a check mark by the ones that are correct so that you know that those are the ones that you're going to have to substitute back in. I'm going to look at the structure here and say that because this is a trinomial, I can get there by multiplying two binomials. If the first term is an x squared, that means each one would have an x in it. And then I will replace with these two pieces here. So x minus 10 and x minus 3. Always need to check through FOIL to make sure that we have factored this polynomial correctly. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 10 times x is negative 10x. And negative 10 times negative 3 is positive 30. When I combine the like terms in the middle, I will be left with x squared minus 13x plus 30, which is the same polynomial that I began with, so I know I have factored it properly.